Station, Manx Radio.
Women Today.
Fastamai, good afternoon. It is Friday. It's just gone 6 minutes past 2, and this is Women Today on Manx Radio with me, Beth Espy. And a little bit later, we're going to be catching up with Judith Lay for all the latest news as the Guild reaches its climax this weekend. But first, it's another Conister Rocks special where we invite our studio guests to take us on a musical journey through their memories, and we also get to hear part of their musical choices as well. And I'm delighted this afternoon to be joined by someone whose day job is that of a freelance branding consultant and copywriter, but someone who also uses her creative talents to inspire others through writing workshops, is also an award-winning published poet, a founder member of Poetry Unlimited, the team behind the Manx Bard. Oh, and incidentally, her porn star name is Fluffy Corrin. Janet Lees, welcome.
Thank you, Beth.
I'm sure you've never been introduced in that way before, but it's an icebreaker. Now, we do ask our guests to choose 5 pieces of music for this programme. How did you find that process?
It was almost impossible. When you think about how much music you listen to in your lifetime and how many pieces that you love, I must have changed my mind about 20 times. It's really, really hard. But I did try and pick things that kind of related to moments in my life that were pivotal, really, that really are full of memories. So,
well, take us back first then to your childhood. You lived in Liverpool until you were 7. Then you moved to Norfolk and you spent the rest of your childhood and teenage years there. How would you sum up your childhood?
It was very happy, really. I was really happy. We were very happy in Liverpool, and I had a massive resentment against my parents for making us move down south because I really didn't want to. But actually, Norfolk is lovely as well, and we live quite close to Norwich, and it was a great place to grow up. So, yeah, I had a really good childhood. 2 sisters. We were always playing out together, and I suppose we spent a lot of time outdoors because we were lucky enough to live in a very safe place. So, yeah, it was great.
You say your granddad was your hero.
Oh yeah, he absolutely was. He taught me how to do skimming stones, and he was from Liverpool as well. But they also moved down to Norfolk when they retired. So he was a huge part of my childhood. He definitely was my hero. Yeah.
And you spent quite a bit of time on the island during summer holidays. What was the Manx connection?
Oh well, my grandfather Harry Corrin was a Manxman. And my grandma Eva, she was from Liverpool, but she moved over here when they were married, and just after the war, during the war, I think it was. And so my mum grew up here, and that part of my family is Manx. So we always came over for holidays from a very young age.
And even through your school days, you showed a bit of a flair for poetry. You had a poem published, I believe, in the school magazine.
Oh yeah. I think when I was about I must have been about 10. I was thrilled. It was great.
Do you remember what it was about?
Yes, I do. It was about dreaming. It was called Dreaming. It was about dreams.
And was it a rhyming poem?
Yes, it was a rhyming poem. Yes.
I'm getting the sense you don't want to recite it to us. Am I right, Janet?
Yeah, you might be right. I think we'll just leave that one.
Tell us about the first piece of music you've chosen.
Okay, I chose this because my parents, when we were growing up, they had a lovely, record player, hi-fi system, and we didn't have that many records because I think they were probably quite expensive then. So, but the ones we did have got played to death, and one of them was Simon and Garfunkel, Sounds of Silence. They had two Simon and Garfunkel albums, and I just know pretty much all of the songs off by heart, and it just reminds me of that time, sort of going from childhood into adolescence, because those songs had they've got a very lyrical quality. The lyrics are fantastic, and they really spoke to me as a budding teenager, I guess.
So this is Simon and Garfunkel, America.
Let us be lovers, we'll marry our fortunes together. I've got some real estate here in my bag, so we bought a pack of cigarettes and Mrs. Wagner pies, and walked off to look for America. Kathy, I said as we boarded a Greyhound in Pittsburgh. Michigan seems like a dream to me now. It took me 4 days to hitchhike from Saginaw. I've come to look for America. Laughing on the bus, playing games with the faces. She said the man in the gabardine suit was a spy. I said be careful, his bow tie is really a camera. Toss me a cigarette, I think there's one in my raincoat. We smoked the last one an hour ago. So I looked at the scenery. She read her magazine, and the moon rose over an open field. Kathy, I'm lost, I said, though I knew she was sleeping.
Simon and Garfunkel, America. Janet Lees swaying wistfully to that song in the studio. Taking you back to a particular... She's lost it. You're completely lost in memories there. I know how important words are to you, and we're going to be talking more about that a little bit later. But what about music? How important is that to you?
Oh, God, I think music is as important as words. It's incredibly evocative. And there's been times in my life when I've hardly been able to listen to music because I just find it too emotional, because it is such an emotional thing. I guess it's like smell, you know, that you hear the few notes of a track that it just takes you right back to that time, as a smell does. You know, you're right back there, and you can feel the feelings, and it just, yeah, it's fantastic. I love it.
Thinking about particular times and the smells and sort of evoking memories, you loved Christmas as a child, and once you woke up at 2:30 in the morning. What reaction did you get from your parents?
They weren't very happy, but we didn't realise. We thought, I don't know what we were thinking, but we did absolutely love Christmas. And I still get that feeling at Christmas, you know, that kind of sense of it being magical, and, you know, the big build-up and everything. I mean, I don't love it as much as I used to, but yeah, we did. We woke up at 2:30 in the morning, and they had to bribe us, basically, to go back to sleep by saying, well, you can have one present from your stocking if you'll promise to go back to sleep. So we did.
Do you remember what you got?
Yeah, I got, it was these amazing, I meant to bring them with me, actually. I got these amazing little wooden dolls, like Russian dolls, but they were Japanese figures, and they just had two little figures inside them. So it was I've still got them in my grandma's magic cabinet, actually, because my grandma used to have this cabinet with lots of curious things in it in the Isle of Man. And we inherited that from her, and it's peopled with very odd things, so they're in there.
Janet Lees, thank you so much for being our Conister Rock guest this afternoon. You're listening to Women Today on Manx Radio. It's just coming up to 2:15.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Women Today.
This is Women Today on Manx Radio, 17 minutes past 2. And this afternoon, it's a Conister Rock special where our guest talks us through some of their memories and some of their favourite pieces of music. And the writer and poet Janet Lees is with us this afternoon. And Janet, we've been hearing about your almost idyllic sounding childhood. I mean, did you know when you were at school what you wanted to do with the rest of your life?
I kept changing my mind. I did really want to be a vet for a long time because I just love animals. We all do, really, in the family, and I get that from my dad, actually. He's totally soft on animals. But then I realised how long I'd have to study to do that, and I wasn't particularly strong on the sciences. I was stronger on the arts. So then I wanted to be a writer. Yeah, I wanted to be a writer, I guess, from quite a young age, yeah.
Now, your life sort of changed quite considerably when you went to college. Why was that? I did actually. I was thinking about this morning because I was going to go and do a degree in English, and I changed my mind at the last minute and kind of followed my heart and went to art college. And then after a year, I transferred to a different course when I started. So I did a split between visual arts and writing. And as I started to write about some things that I'd maybe kept suppressed or whatever, and it kind of
I think, propelled me into a bit of a breakdown, to be honest, which can happen if you start to, express things and you don't really know, you haven't got the tools to deal with the feelings that come up. And there was no kind of, it's quite a long time ago, there was no, it wasn't so obvious where you could get help for those kind of feelings. So yeah, it was quite a difficult time actually, the years at college, particularly the 2 years sort of in the middle.
Now, you described it as a breakdown, and you have spoken in the past. You've been incredibly open about it, and I suppose it was a different time. Are we much better at talking about those things now, do you think?
Yeah, I think we are much better, and it's funny because I'm just doing some work for a client at the moment, and it's all about mental health in the workplace. So yeah, and the whole thrust of their campaign for their employees is, people are talking about it now. But the way that they're positioning it is that people are starting to talk about mental health, and this is now, so we do talk about it more openly, but there's definitely still a kind of stigma around it, and people don't want to admit that they have it, even to themselves. They kind of, we kind of avoid it really. So it's a tricky one, but it is incredibly common. I think it's something like 1 in 4 people in their lifetime will have some kind of mental illness. It could be depression, it could be, it could be more serious than that, but 1 in 4, and then they say something more like 3 in 4 will have some kind of symptoms. So it's really common. So we should be talking about it more, really.
So doing this writing, Unleash These Feelings, which you say led you into depression, there wasn't really the resources to deal with that. So how did you cope then?
It was quite interesting because I was at college then, and I was suicidal actually. It was quite serious, and I was just told to take a year off because I was a danger to myself and others, and that was kind of the college's attitude because they didn't know how to handle it. Luckily, I had a GP who was amazing. He was only young. He was recently qualified. So he was quite close to my age, I guess, and he was so supportive. And I went to see him, and he gave me some medication and stuff that really, really helped. And he also said, which helped even more, if ever you want to talk, come and talk to me. So sometimes when I felt really like there was nobody else to talk to, I'd just make an appointment. And he just said, look, I'll block out several appointments. And he was amazing. He was really ahead of his time. Dr. Munsell, I'll never forget him. He helped me through quite a tough time. So
extensive research now has been done into the benefits of what's known, I suppose, as therapeutic writing. And you yourself are qualified in writing for well-being. How much of that was prompted by your own experience?
It's mostly prompted by my own experience, I guess, because obviously I experienced that time when I started writing, and I was writing about things that I'd kept bottled up, difficult stuff. One of them was the death of my granddad, actually, and I wrote about that, and maybe I hadn't grieved properly, I don't know, but so I was aware that the feelings can be very powerful, but also that the writing that comes out of it can be really powerful. I wrote some really quite extraordinary stuff, when I started to be honest about the way I was feeling. And also I have experienced the huge benefits, the therapeutic benefits of that kind of writing as well. I always think of it as like coming at the big things sideways, because if you try and write a poem about my divorce or the loss of a loved one, you're coming at it head on. You can't do that. But if you kind of work around the subject by looking at metaphors and writing from objects, you really do come at the subject without meaning to, and then it's much more, it's much easier to explore, and the results are typically more real and more honest, I guess.
Is that only an avenue that's really open to creative people who've got the urge to do that sort of thing in the first place?
Well, first of all, I would say that everybody is creative. We've had this conversation before, and I really do believe that, and everybody can write, because everybody can express themselves. We all talk. Some people find it easier to express themselves that way, by talking, and some people, like me, I find it easier to express myself in writing. And so it's absolutely there for everybody. And it's not really about, I think the key thing about when you're doing expressive writing or therapeutic writing or writing for well-being, it's about the process, not the product. So you're not trying to create a perfect poem. It's about a bit of a splurge, really, and getting it all out there onto the paper. It's incredibly liberating, actually, can be.
You've been instrumental in developing the hub down in Port Erin, where I'm guessing people are encouraged to do this sort of thing that you're talking about.
Yes, it's been amazing. I mean, I haven't personally been instrumental in the hub. That's Janet Bridle, as you know, but I have obviously been instrumental in the creative writing there, and we've done 2 years of lots of different workshops in writing and in art, and we're just embarking on a 3rd year now with the very kind support of the Arts Council, who've been amazing. They're very, very supportive of this, and it has been phenomenal. You know, we've had people from all walks of life, all ages, totally mixed abilities. Some people can write, some people have never done it before, or they haven't written since school, because typically they were told that they were no good, or there was no point in doing that, you know, because it won't get you a proper job, all that sort of stuff that silences us. And they've all found benefits without a doubt, and for some people it has been completely life-changing.
Something that was life-changing for you was just before you turned 40 and when you decided to stop drinking. Why was that?
Because it was ruining my life. And I think I'd known it for a long time. I mean, I have had a problem with drink from a very young age, actually, when I first started drinking. I think because, I mean, I can see it very clearly now, but I couldn't at the time. I was very, very shy as a child, and I always felt like on the edge of things, or a bit like an alien, like I didn't really fit in. And so it always felt like I was holding my breath a bit or something, you know, and something awful was going to happen. And the first time I had a mouthful of alcohol, it was like, oh, it took that feeling away. So it was incredibly powerful. It was like, I feel normal now, you know. But the trouble with that is if you start to rely on that, it kind of, you become dependent on it. That's just the rule of addiction. And that's what happened to me over a period of quite a few years. So throughout my 20s and 30s, I got into trouble quite a bit with drink, really. You know, it kind of was controlling me rather than the other way around, and it was starting to hurt the people that I cared about most. So I hit rock bottom, I guess, when I was 39 and decided that enough was enough. And I'd probably drunk enough for 3 lifetimes in that time anyway.
And did the people who cared about you, your friends, family, try and talk to you about this before then?
Yes. Well, my husband was the only one, Ian, who saw it really up close and personal, because obviously, you know, we were living together, and he was the one who'd have to fish me out of hedges and stuff, you know, on the way back from the pub on a Friday night. So yeah, he did try and talk to me, and I did see that if I carried on the way I was going, I would lose him. And I think I had a flash of clarity where I thought, God, if I lose him, I'll lose everything else, because nothing else will matter, you know. And I just thought, oh my God, I can see how people end up on the streets. You know, if you lose the things that are most important to you, then, you know, whatever. So I stopped, yes, when I was just before I was 40, yeah.
And how easy was it just to stop?
Well, I had a huge amount of support from very good friends and people with similar problems. That's always, it's the same with the creative writing, actually. When you're sharing things that you've got in common, it just changes everything, because you realise you're not alone, and that, you know, it's doable, really, and that other people kind of experience the same things. And so it was quite hard, but I tell you, giving up smoking was much harder. I gave up smoking 4 years later, and I still would kill to have a fag, if I'm honest, which is a terrible thing to say, but I don't.
Tell us about your second piece of music, Janet.
Oh, this is quite timely, actually, because it's Lou Reed, Walk on the Wild Side, and I first heard this when I was at art college, when I was about 17, I think, and this very cool student was playing it on a great big ghetto blaster that he had, and we were out sketching somewhere, and I just thought, my God, that's so cool, and it just was like a very electric experience.
Holly came from Miami, FLA, hitchhiked away across USA, plucked her eyebrows on the way, shaved her legs, and then he was a she. She says, hey babe, take a walk on the wild side. Said, hey honey, take a walk on the wild side. Candy came from out on the island. In the back room she was everybody's darling, but she never lost her head. Even when she was giving head, she says, hey babe, take a walk on the wild side. Said, hey babe, take a walk on the wild side. And the colored girls go do 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 do. Little Joe never once gave it away. Everybody had to pay and pay.
Lou Reed, Walk on the Wild Side, Janet Lee's second track. You've just mentioned your husband Ian, who you describe as the kindest, most wonderful man you've known next to your dad and granddad. How did you meet?
We were actually online dating pioneers. Yes, I'd split up from quite a long-term relationship, and my mum was staying with me, and she convinced me to do it. She egged me on, and it was quite early days then. It was datingdirect.com, so I signed up, and I didn't sign up. I just did a search, and actually Ian came up top of the search results. And my mum said to me, "Go on, send him an email. He looks nice." And I said, "No, I can't. And she said, "Yes, you can. You've got nothing to lose." So I did.
How creative was that email? I'm imagining, Janet, that you must have been able to craft a beautiful...
No, it wasn't. It was pathetic. It just said, "I see you're..." Because I think it said something like, "I see you're..." Because he had his own design company. "I see you're a designer. I'm a copywriter. I think we might get on quite well."
But you were right, and it wasn't long before you decided to get married.
No, it was... We first met on the 17th of October in the year 2000, and then we were married 6 months and 1 day later, which was fantastic. So, I mean, I knew pretty much as soon as I met him, which is bizarre, because I'd always said, "Oh, I'm never getting married, I don't believe in all that, terribly a bohemian, but I changed my mind when I met him."
Now, you weren't really writing poetry or anything at that time, so no romantic love letters.
Oh yes, there were actually quite a lot of romantic love letters, yeah. Because just after we'd met, I went away for nearly 3 weeks to stay with a very good friend of mine who happened to live in the Seychelles at that time. And I spent virtually the whole time writing to Ian. So it was kind of like a diary stroke long love letter. It was thousands of words long. I was doing it every day. I was completely obsessed.
So when did you start writing poetry again? What made you do that?
Oh, it was a few years later. It was in 2011. I went on with Janet Bridle, actually. We both took our mums to Greece on a retreat kind of holiday with a company called Serenity Retreat, run by the most lovely woman called Kim. It's a fantastic company. And we were doing meditation and mindfulness as part of the kind of self-development part. And then the rest of it was a holiday. And I think it was the combination of meditation, which I'd not really done properly before, and then doing these massive long sea swims on my own. I love the sea, and it was like it sounds really dramatic, but it was like the words were coming back into me from the sea, and I'd rush back going, "I need some paper. I've got to write a poem. I've got another one," and they were really bad. But I was writing again, which was amazing.
This brings us neatly onto your third piece of music.
Oh yes, this is Morcheeba. And I love her voice. I think her voice is amazing, but also I love this one because it is about the sea.
Flocking to the sea, crowds of people wait for me. Seagulls scavenge still ice cream. Worries vanish within my dream. I left my soul boats sail past the shore. No singing, Mayday anymore. The sun is shining, the water's clear. Just you and I walk along the pier. I left my soul there, down by the sea.
More Chiba, the sea, because we are on the Conister Rock this afternoon with Janet Lees, who is drawn to the sea, I think you'd say, would you, Janet?
Yes, I absolutely love it. I am actually a Pisces. I'm not saying that I believe in that, but it is uncanny because I do love water, and I've always been like drawn like a magnet to any form of water since I was really, really young, and the sea in particular. I love the sea, and I do love swimming in the sea, but only in the summer now. It's just a bit too cold.
And we were talking about the fact that this holiday in Greece back in 2011 was what really brought you back to poetry, to writing. I mean, some of it you said was pretty bad in your own opinion. Would you have been happy showing anybody that?
Well, I did, because I didn't realise it was bad at the time. Oh no, it's not about good and bad, but it was unedited, let's say. You know, it was a bit unedited, and it was a little bit over the top in terms of emotion, because I hadn't written anything for so long. And so I really, I just came back from that holiday with a raging need to write, but also to be able to express myself better in the way that I wanted to express myself. And I was feeling frustrated because I knew I wasn't saying it in the way that I wanted to say it. So I decided I had to do a course, and I signed up at Lancaster for the creative writing MA, and I used to go over. It was part-time over 2 years, and I used to go over every week on the boat for the workshops
Across the sea?
Across the sea. And in fact, one of my tutors, he signed one of his books to me, and he said, "To Janet, who comes every week across the sea."
You have had a number of poems published. You've won awards. How does that feel?
It's very nice, actually. I love it, but I have to be really careful with that because it is a bit of an ego thing, And I remember Alan Bennett saying that, he says you get into this thing where when you start to get stuff published, and so you have a piece he said, I have a piece in the Guardian or whatever, unpublished, and then he's thinking, where's my double page spread in the New Statesman, so it's kind of not the most important thing, and you have to remember that, I think, when you're a writer, that the most important thing is the feeling that you get when you're doing it, that feeling of being in the flow and kind of doing it just for the sake of it, and absolutely being in it and not wanting to do anything else and not being bored or distracted. That is priceless. And also there are other things in life that are more important than writing, like relationships and things like that. So you have to kind of keep it in perspective. But it is really lovely, of course it is, because we're all insecure. And I think sometimes, no matter how many awards you get or prizes you win, or how many, you still think, oh God, I'm not good enough, because you're comparing yourself with someone else, and we all do that, and I know poets who are much more widely published than me, and I've got a friend who's just had a collection published, and she's the same. She just thinks, I'm not good enough, So yeah, it's great, but it's not the be all end all. But it is good to get that kind of validation from your peers, I guess. Yeah.
You talk about other things being more important than getting that recognition, and I suppose that was something that you felt really keenly early in 2014, which was an incredibly difficult time for you because your youngest sister Carol died. How did you cope with that? I didn't cope. Well, I know I did cope with it. I mean, we had to as a family, and I think, when she died, it was very sudden and it was unexpected, and we came together as a family in the most amazing way, actually, and that was quite a beautiful thing, because we were just there together in our little bubble, and planning the funeral for 2 weeks, and my other sister Nikki came over from France, and we were so close, and I realised for the first time ever, I guess, that we are really close, and that they are the most important people to me in the world, apart from my husband, and I I've learned a lot through that, and the whole thing of grief, because I do remember at a funeral thinking, oh well, because it was just desperate, and I remember thinking, well, in a year it won't feel this bad, but it isn't like that, grief isn't like that. It's like you don't
it doesn't kind of get any less. Maybe the waves get further apart, but the feeling is still the same. It's still as deep, you know, when you allow yourself to think about it, or when you do. And I just feel I have grown up a lot, actually, since Carol died. And I've had to take a good look at myself, and a good look at, you know, we were saying what's important. And so I think I've got things in a better order of priority now, although I still work far too much. But, you know, my relationships now are definitely top priority, and everything else is kind of a bonus, really. But another thing that definitely has helped me and continues to help me is writing and, you know, self-expression, because I'm able to, in some way, kind of go around the edges of that feeling and, you know, make little inroads into it each time, a little bit more maybe. I just did something recently. I was doing a course with the Poetry School, which is a fantastic online resource. They do online courses, which is great if you live in the Isle of Man. And one of the prompts was about writing a letter. What would you say to somebody that you can't, you know, who's not here anymore? And that enabled me to write something that then became a sort of visual piece as well, like a piece of art. And then that's now found a home, you know, in the outside world, thankfully. So it was kind of a way to honour her as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think for 2 months after she died, I couldn't write a word, and that was awful. It was awful not being able to write. And I went on a women's writing retreat, and the women there were so lovely and so kind. I was able to start writing again. And so it was a lifesaver, really.
Tell us about your fourth track.
Oh, right, yes. Moby. It is Moby, isn't it? Yes, Moby and Ever Loving. I love this music so much.
Moby, Ever Loving, the fourth piece of music chosen by our Conister Rock guest Janet Lees, who is a bit of a darner. Yeah?
Yes.
What do you like to darn?
I'll darn anything. Give me your old socks, I'll have a go.
Wish I'd brought them in with me. You're listening to Women Today. In just a moment, we're going to be hearing from Judith Lay about the very latest from the Guild.
Women Today.
It is 13 minutes to 3. After 3 o'clock, Ben Hartley is here.
Good afternoon, and a packed programme today. We've got the Domino's Pizza Challenge, the final Gogglebox Guru of the week, and we're very excited as well because the cast and crew, or some of them anyway, from The Producers are in the studio just after 3 o'clock. It all opens, the Douglas Choral Union show, The Producers, based on the Mel Brooks musical. It's going to be brilliant. Opens a week tomorrow, so we'll have a natter with all the team just after 3 to see what's in store.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ben Hartley. And speaking of excitement, it's building down at the Villa Marina as the Guild reaches its climax. And with all the details about what's happening is our very own Judith Lay. Hello, Jude.
Hello, Beth. Yes, the excitement is building, and it all starts on stage in the Royal Hall at 6 o'clock this evening when we have the Sheffield Plate, which is the highest award the Guild offers to our young singers. And with me now is Olivia Black, and out of the 9 competitors for the Sheffield Plate, 5 of them are from Sing Up. That happens to be Olivia's singing singing troupe. Olivia, good afternoon. How are you feeling?
Good afternoon. I'm absolutely delighted. It's been a great week with the students and they're all very excited getting into their little frocks as we talk. Apart from Zach, he won't be wearing a frock.
Olivia, you've got over 100 pupils in Sing Up. How on earth do you manage to teach them all? And you teach them to a very high standard because you've had a very successful week, haven't you?
Well, yeah, it's been great. We started off as a small little harmony group actually in 2013 with 30 students, and now, as you say, it's grown to over 100. I teach them in small groups, small age groups, which makes it easy to teach the guild songs, and it just really seems to work for the younger ones, singing with each other, getting used to singing in front of people.
You do love to make it fun for them, and they all look very, very happy. They really do.
Yeah, I do. I've been doing this since I was 6. I haven't ever missed a guild or a girls solo. So I remember how nerve-wracking it can be. So I try to encourage them and make it fun.
And we've got another big night tomorrow night, and joining me now are Chrissy Sutcliffe and Lisa Kreisky, who are responsible for the festival's finest. Enter Stage Door Productions.
Absolutely. So we're in charge of the festival's finest show, which is at 7:30 tomorrow night in the Royal Hall. Tickets are still available at villagaiety.com. It's a kind of a showcase of some of the most amazing performances. Some people... we advertise in the back of the programme that some people will definitely be included, but we've got some lovely surprises up our sleeve as well, so it's going to be a great variety show.
Well, and Lisa, you're nodding and smiling. Are you in charge of the surprises?
We're both kind of in charge of them, really. But as Christy says, they are pre-selected in the back of the programme, the winners of the classes that will definitely be in there. But of course it's a show, it's an all singing, all dancing, all lights, all sound, so we do like to put some surprises in there that people perhaps wouldn't expect. Why not?
Well, it's a great atmosphere. We loved it last year because all the competition is put aside now and we can just all have the fun. And if you haven't been able to get down to any of the guild, coming tomorrow night is just a great way to get the flavour of it and the quality of it.
Absolutely. We've got singers, we've got groups of singers, we've got dancers, instrumentalists, spoken word, drama. So it's a real sort of snapshot of all the things that happen during the week. And I mean, we've got a brass player as well. But it's a snapshot of all the things that happen, and it's a great way of having a look at what's going on without coming to a massive big long class, but having a real flavour of the event. And it's a fab night and well worth the ticket price.
Well, it's a complete change of hats for you both because you're doing that for tomorrow night, but you've also been mums with children competing this week, haven't you? How nerve-wracking is that, Lisa?
Well, I've never experienced it. It's my son's first year in the guild as a soloist, and it was absolutely terrifying, I must say. But he did very well. All the kids did very, very well. At that age, there's no competition. You know, they all just want to get up there and have fun, and that's something that we really encourage, especially as you were talking about for tomorrow night for the festival's finest, because it's not a competition. The kids and the adults are just getting up there, enjoying it and doing what they love, which is really important to us.
And they're all already winners. They are all already winners. You are seeing the best.
This is perfectly true. And of course, just a quick reminder that we start the evening, 6 o'clock tonight, with the Sheffield Plate, where we've got these 9 terrific youngsters who'll be singing again. Then we've got the vocal duets final. That's going to be great, really. And then following that, the Cleveland Medal Test. And hands up, who would not like to be adjudicating that? 6 terrific singers and somebody's going to take a Cleveland Medal home. That is going to be tremendous, isn't it?
Be absolutely fantastic. I can't wait, because actually I will have the privilege, after each one of those classes has been won, to invite them to sing again tomorrow night at the festival's finest show. So if you miss them tonight, you'll be able to see the winners of those classes again tomorrow as well.
And of course, speaking of the Cleveland Medal, our compere for the festival's finest is actually multi-Cleveland winner Mandy Griffin, along with Jack Divers. So we're really lucky to have those guys on board as well.
Well, they did a fantastic job, lads, and I won't say anything about is anybody going to try and throw Mandy over their shoulder and carry her off the stage.
Oh, Jude.
As happened as it. Well, Beth, I knew you'd stop me there. I knew it just when I was getting to the interesting bit.
I think we should leave people hanging with that one, actually. It's quite a good place to leave them, maybe.
Go on then. All right, if you insist.
Judith, thank you so much for being with us every day this week, keeping us up to date with what is happening at the Guild. And Jude will be back later. Some fantastic performances have been over this past week.
Manx Radio's coverage of the Manx Music Festival is brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im.
It is 7 minutes to 3. It's a bank holiday weekend, so Women Today will be back on Tuesday with some biking banter, talking about a fundraiser for the Rob Vine Fund. But we have been joined on the Conister Rock this afternoon by Janet Lees, who incidentally is a newbie on the Creative Network, a group of women who promote local art, and a big weekend this weekend for you, Janet.
Yes, it is the Isle of Man Art Festival this weekend. So it's over the 3 days. It's only £5 for the whole 3 days, and that gets you a festival guide and an artist directory and entry into, I don't know how many venues across the island. It's an awful lot, but there's 45 participating artists, and a lot of them are doing tryout sessions and demonstrations. So it's across all of the art, the visual arts. So you've got pottery, sculpture, painting, photography, embroidery, everything really. It's fantastic. And yes, Sulby, Peel, Port Erin, Ramsey, it really is island-wide this year. So it's going to be a fantastic weekend.
Well, Janet, it has been lovely having you with us on the Conister Rock this afternoon. I wonder how you would fare out there on your own. Obviously, it's surrounded by sea, which you would quite like. Bit of solitude, is that good for your writing?
Yes, I absolutely have to have solitude, I must say. I love being with people, but I am quite an introvert. So if I've been with people, for a bit of a while, I then need to sort of go back into my cave and kind of, recharge. So yeah, solitude is great. I sometimes think that's my spiritual home out there on the Tower of Refuge.
The thing you wouldn't like to see on the Tower of Refuge, of course, is plastic grass. You've got a bit of an issue with that, have you?
Oh, yeah, unnecessary plastic really upsets me, because I think, as a sea lover and a sea swimmer, there is so much unnecessary plastic in the ocean, and I think the statistics are so depressing. It's something like another truckload gets put into the oceans every minute. It's really, really horrendous, and I've seen some really upsetting films about where it all gathers in the Pacific and the Pacific garbage patch. So plastic, yeah, not good.
It wouldn't be too good though, I suppose, to be there and not have access to The Apprentice, which is a bit of a a thing you love, is it?
Oh, you had to get that in, didn't you? That's like my secret. That's like my guilty pleasure. Yeah, the Apprentice. I don't really like what it stands for, but it's just absolutely fascinating, and I'm completely addicted. And me and my mum watch it, and we just text each other the whole time. So, yeah.
And what is next for you? Are you in the middle of writing anything? Is there anything big coming up?
I'm actually working on a collection of photographs and poems that kind of sit side by side. It's all about like impermanence and decay, and it sounds quite miserable, but it's not really. It's all about the sort of renewal of life and how things change and renew and everything. So I'm working on that and a poetry collection as well simultaneously. So yeah.
But not actively taking part in this arts festival this weekend, but really, as you say, just encouraging as many people as possible to get down and see what's happening, because the wealth of talent, we talk about this so often on the show, is just huge over here.
It really is amazing. And I shall be. I've got to work this weekend actually, but I'll be doing my best to get down and do what I can. Especially because some of the artists are throwing open their studios, so that's a fantastic opportunity to just see them at work in their workplace, which I think is a real privilege, actually.
Well, Janet, tell us about the final piece of music you've chosen.
Oh, right, yes, this is David Bowie, and I mean David Bowie means an awful lot to me. Has always been a big part of my life as an artist as well as a musician. I think he's an incredible artist, and. Also, he was a big favourite of my sister as well, all three of us, and we used to listen to him a lot together. And I just had to choose this one because it is from his last album that he made before he died, and I think it's a really incredible song. It seems to me that it really does bridge two worlds, so it's Lazarus.
Look up here, I'm in heaven. I've got scars that can't be seen. I've got drama, can't be stolen. Everybody knows me now.
Look up here, man, I'm in danger. I've got nothing left to lose. I'm so high it makes my brain whirl. Drop my cell phone down below.
Women Today.